Melody, and I'm here with Aylin today. I'm an Ananda yoga instructor, and today I'd like to share with you 7 tips for how you can teach deep relaxation more effectively with your students. So I'm going to have Aylin lie down on her back. You can have her head that way actually, and she's going to come into a supine position. And the first tip I'm going to guide her through is setting up the alignment. So Savasana is important to be treated like any other pose in that it does have some alignment points. Even though it's basic, you can actually guide a large group of students through some simple self-adjustments to help them get comfortable and properly aligned for deep relaxation. So the first thing I'm going to have Aylin do is lift her head up and just look down at her body for symmetry. See that she's lying in a straight line. And then I'm next going to have her stretch down through her heels, lengthening the feet away from the hip joints, and then allow the feet to be about shoulder distance apart, so a little bit wider than hip width. And the inner thighs can roll out to the sides, her feet can turn out comfortably, and this will allow her hip joints to relax. Next, I'm going to have Aylin pick her tailbone up off the floor and lengthen it away from her head. This will help to elongate the lower back, and the lumbar curve can either be natural or even flat against the floor. Next, I'm going to ask her to press down through the backs of her arms to lift her chest up off the floor, and then she's going to glide her shoulder blades down one at a time, lengthening the shoulders, broadening the mid-back. And then her arms are going to be placed about 45 degrees away from the body, palms faced upwards. Finally, she can lengthen the back of her neck by just reaching the base of the skull slightly away from the collarbone, and that cervical spine is in its natural alignment. Tip number 2 is offering adjustments. If you're working with a smaller group of students, you can spend more time helping them get relaxed in Shavasana by offering some feel-good adjustments. Before you touch assist your students, you want to first get their permission. So a simple way to do this, I'm going to ask Aylin, may I adjust you?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So first thing I'm going to do is rub my hands together to energize them with positive life force. I'm going to be careful with my own alignment as I clasp her ankles. I'm going to rock her legs side to side, not very high up off the floor here, just a foot or two. And then with a bit of traction, I'm going to lengthen her legs and release the feet back to that shoulder distance apart. Second, I'm going to adjust her shoulders by getting real close to her body. I'm going to take my hand that's closest to hers and support her arm against my hip here. I'm going to lift her shoulder up off the floor a little bit so that I can glide my hand down the back of her scapula and just draw it away from the midline. And you'll want to repeat the same thing on the other side. Get real close, support their elbow and wrist, and then scoop down and under, slightly out to the side, allowing those hands to be a little bit away from the body so there's some space in between the armpits. And lastly, I'm going to adjust her neck gently. Lengthen her neck, just a little bit of traction at the occipitals, and release her head back down to center. Tip number 3 is breath awareness. If you haven't yet taught your students how to breathe diaphragmatically, now is a great time to do so. So you can have your beginner students place either one hand or both on the abdomen and guide them through some diaphragmatic breathing. Breathing in and out of the nose. You can feel the expansion of the abdomen on the in-breath and the relaxation of the abdomen back down toward the floor on the out-breath. And diaphragmatic breathing is one of the simplest and most effective ways to achieve physical and mental relaxation. That's why it's so important to add some breath awareness into your guidance of deep relaxation. And once your students feel comfortable with this natural rhythm of the breath, you can have them place their hand back down on the floor and continue to breathe in this way for as long as is comfortable. Another important reason to guide breath instruction is that it will help your students to focus their mind. We've probably all experienced a time where we either fell asleep in Savasana or our minds were so wandering from one thing to the next that we weren't able to truly relax. And so by focusing on the mind, it will help our students to withdraw their attention inside. Number 4 is use visualization. After you've helped your students to relax physically, to focus the mind, you want to do something to uplift their consciousness and expand their awareness. There are many ways to do this, but I'm going to guide Aylin through a very simple technique that we use in Ananda Yoga called the energizing healing breath. And I'm going to have her focus on individual body parts beginning from the feet and ending with the head, because this is the direction we want the energy to flow, inwards and upwards. So I'm going to ask Aylin to close her eyes and bring her awareness to her breath. And let's make each breath slow, deep, and full of attention. And then I'm going to ask her to bring her awareness to her feet. And as she breathes in, I want her to imagine that she's filling her feet, the skin of her feet, the bones, the muscles, with tingling, warm, healing energy. It's like her breath is permeating her feet with life force. And now visualize that light moving up into your calves. See that tingling, warm light surrounding the tops and backs of your lower legs. And use your breath to guide that light up into the thighs, the upper legs. The inhalation really draws in your awareness of that life force. And the exhalation, we can actually feel like we're letting go of disease, fatigue, or injury from the body. Now let's feel that light moving up into the hips. Feel that life force permeating the entire pelvic region. And then see that light moving up into the abdomen, the front and back. And let's imagine the tingling light surrounding the skin of your fingers, the bones, the muscles. And continue to feel that light moving upwards into the forearms. Now the upper arms are filled with light. And visualize the chest, left and right side, tingling with vitality. Now up into your neck and throat. And now see that light filling your face, your cheeks, your ears, eyes, and forehead. Your entire body is made of light. You are healthy and well. Tip number 5 is silent time. So you want to balance the instructions that you give in Savasana with some silent time afterwards. Because you've been talking throughout your entire yoga class, you want to give your students the time to absorb, process, and integrate all the information that they've received from the preceding poses. And so try to make the silent part of Savasana at least half the amount of time or even longer. Do what feels right for your students. Number 6 is restore body awareness. So you'll want to gently interrupt the silent time by asking your students to begin to bring their awareness back into their body. They can take a nice deep breath in and deep breath out. As they begin to bring their attention back into the room, they can elongate the breath. They can start to gently open the eyes and wiggle the toes and fingers, awakening the limbs. And you can have them rock their head gently side to side. And a few more larger movements. You can have them start to rotate their ankles and wrists. You can have them inhale and stretch the arms up overhead as they lengthen down through the legs. So awakening the entire body once again. And then let's bend the knees and wrap the arms around them. Hugging them into the chest. Let's rock left and right on the back. Massaging the back. And then you can have your students reach their right arm up overhead on the floor and roll to their right so that when their head lands, it's supported by the arm. Take a couple breaths here to just relax, take it slow, and then press the hands down into the floor to roll on back up. If your class finishes immediately after Savasana, try to spend a little bit more time on step number 6 because you want to help your students get grounded and back into their bodies before they go. And finally, tip number 7 is end your class with pranayama or meditation. Many of your students are going to feel incredibly still after Savasana. And so even if you don't teach meditation, try to encourage your students to take the peace that they feel from Savasana and your class out into their day. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much, Lynn. And if you enjoyed the class today, please like and subscribe to our video channel. Thank you and namaste.